Voila, cha-ching, there is something. I just got in the mail from my Amazon account. What is it? Let us take a look. Okay guys, so another product review. And what is it? It's this guy. The Nekteck 2.5-inch SATA Type-C hard drive enclosure. NKTC EN25TP. What's very interesting about this is, what does it look like? Well, it, as I kind of jump through the box, is, well, it looks like, let's just get rid of that. It looks like my ORICO drive. And this is not the Nekteck, this is the ORICO drive. And I don't know if you can see through it, but it says ORICO right there. Here is the Nekteck. Let's put this a little bit closer together, and we'll look at what we see here. Now, I said this and I put that up here, a card in here when I did this review, that I knew that I would scratch the living daylights out of this case with this acrylic style. But if you can look beyond the scratches here, you can look, other than the word ORICO, which there's nothing up here, everything appears to be, I mean, screw placement, this whole card looks identical. So in my first expected opinion, and I will tell you all first and foremost, I have learned a lot about these related to speed and understanding of data transfer and whatnot. And again, please just bear in mind, I am not technical in, well, I say in no aspect. I have some technicality ability with me, but I am not an expert at all this stuff. What I am going to talk about is how I kind of do some tests and see how they are similar or different. So if you notice in here, I do have another SSD. I have my old SSD. It was in the original video a couple years ago. The SanDisk Ultra 2 works great, solid. I've been using it for all my videos. But I have another 1 terabyte. This is 1 terabyte. I have another 1 terabyte Samsung SSD. And in this, with the Samsung, I'm going to be fair, I'm going to take both of these guys, swap the drives. I'm going to use the same cable that came with each device. I'm actually going to even also swap those cables, because one of the issues I had before was I didn't have enough resolution in the testing to say, is it similar or different based on what cabling or what drive I use. So now that I have two SSDs, I can now fairly certainly do a decent test between the two and see which case is better. See which, I'm not going to worry so much about which drive is better, but you know, if they're similar in cases, in process and data transfer, the Samsung that's newer doesn't mean that it'll be any faster because there's limitations basically on the device itself. So what I should see is a very similar set of numbers across both of these, just from what I see up here. I believe it'll be the same. So let's go ahead and continue the walk around of the Nekteck. As you can see here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but USB-C, USB-C. This is the new device here, case here, with the hard drives inside of it. Again, flip over here and you can see everything is pretty much identical except for the printing. But chips, the LEDs that light up look the same right here. Between the red and blues and the transfer flashing, they all look the same. All of this pretty much just looks identical to this guy, other than how this connects. Nope, this is identical as well. That's part of the SSD in here. So the way that this foot connects into here, also the same. Everything is pretty much the same. And now you also can see that I just recently purchased this VNAND SSD 870 EVO. So pretty good drive from what I hear. I actually got it with a really good deal on Samsung's website when I purchased some NVMe external hard drives. So anyway, moving on, they are on the back side. You can see that they're rounded. Same ribbing on the lower section here. The top covers, I won't necessarily show it here because it'll probably take too much time, but they literally take off the exact same way. I mean, I'm telling you guys, just from this and the handling and the plastic and just everything about it, they're literally identical. So, what does that mean? I don't know. Let's move on to some of the data testing. Samsung, as you can see up here that I'm putting, let me see if I can make that arrow bigger. Boom. It doesn't do it. Okay, there it is. My Samsung SSD. And my SanDisk SSD, and I have swapped those between the cases. And to keep my cable factor down to a minimum, I use the same USB-C to USB-C cable across both cases. And I also ensured that the USB-C went from the hard drive case to the MacBook Pro. It's a 2018 MacBook Pro. And I went directly into its port, and I use the same port for all the tests just to make sure that everything is even. And as you can see here, comparing what I believe is apples to apples, in this case with no changing cable, the numbers do show some bit of difference between the write speeds between an ORICO and the Nekteck for the Samsung SSD. And then as well for the SanDisk SSD, ORICO, and Nekteck, they do also show a difference in numbers as well. And I will tell you this, that I have found that it depends on when and certain times when the computer's under a load or whatever, there's some change. But do not let these numbers necessarily throw you off. What I am trying to say is in a range, using this test, I think that they're identical. Now, it's 371, 438. I mean, is that a big enough range? It is a bit, but I think it's within, because I will, just for clarity, I have seen this write speed on this SSD, Samsung SSD in the ORICO case. And if anybody knows this test, if you start the test, it does back and forth for as long as you let it go. And I've seen this jump up to, 430, 455, and I've seen it drop to 371. And I even did this for this case to show the lowest in some aspects and then some of the highers in the other aspect. Now, it basically was whenever I stopped it, but I'm telling you that there is a range. So I would basically ballpark the write speed at 400-ish for both. And also in the read speeds, I would say 475, 500-ish. Again, I've seen this jump up. Now, with this on the SanDisk ORICO, if you look at these numbers, you see that the number is a 455, and it is not similar to the Samsung SSD, but the SanDisk is a higher number on this side. Like I said, I think that there's enough fluctuation in the test. I've seen these range quite a bit, that I believe that this is still going to be 4 something range, as well as the SanDisk in the Nekteck. So basically what does this say is that if you got the SanDisk in either device, the ORICO case or Nekteck case, there is a range in the 400-ish and some change, 420, 440 maybe range. You see that almost over here also in the ORICO. In the read speeds, you see in the 500s, 435, you see a higher read speed than you see a write speed. That makes sense, but as you can see here, there's a large range between 420 and 520, almost 100 difference. Then you see that there's about 70-ish difference here, almost 100 in the difference. In the end, I think that they're pretty much identical. I think you just catch whatever the computer's processing at the time, if it's sharing some bandwidth on this, or if it's taking some load to process off the other hard drive, doing some other type of background task, that you might see fluctuation. I think across the board, both the SanDisk and the SSD are identical, probably in speeds, and as well as the cases that I've swapped are pretty much identical in speeds. And if you want to see a range of speeds, let's bring in an example. So over here, that's why I say that, you see the 400s-ish here. If you look at the read and write speeds for as an example, a spinning hard drive, I have a 2 terabyte LaCie or LaCie, whatever you want to call it, the non-ruggedized version, but it's a spinning hard drive. 121, 128. Huge difference between here and here. Pretty fast, but large difference. Now, my internal hard drive, if I bring this over and drop it on top, look at it there, 12, 28, and 2360. Huge numbers, right? And that's just internal, direct, hardwired into the computer. I mean, there's just no cables, nothing else to basically slow down the speed of the process. Move over and let me get you another test here on a hard drive that I purchased, also a Samsung T5 external hard drive, and it's 4 to 5-ish, very similar to the SSDs that I have, so I think it's comparable across the board there. And then lastly, I also purchased a T7, a little more expensive, but look at those speeds, we're sitting in the 9s. So if I believe I remember correctly, this is supposed to be in the thousands, but again, there's some loss, so the 900s make sense. So again, I'm talking about a range, 400-ish here, 500-ish in the read, 400-ish on the write for both ORICO and the Nekteck, and as well as for the Samsung SSD and the SanDisk SSD. All right, guys, so where do we stand? What do we have? I have two cases that, in my opinion, look identical. I believe chipset-wise they are identical. Without digging in any further, I'm just thinking they're identical. Speed data and everything, generally, they're identical. Yes, there's some different numbers, but as I explained, I'm sure that this, when I ran the test, there were different tasking going on throughout the computer that might have slowed it down a little bit. But nonetheless, I think that these guys are across the board basically identical. I have an older SSD, the SanDisk Ultra 2 960, I believe it is. This is a few years old, and then this Samsung 870, EVO 870, just a few weeks old. And I think that they're basically identical in speed and process wise, basically. Without being too technical, yes, there's somebody else will jump in here and tell me the technical aspects to it that might make one better than the other, whatever, but just as a layperson who's using this to, want to put product videos, pictures, whatever, quickly onto a hard drive, and is not caring so much about the full technical aspects, but want to do it inexpensively for the most part and want to do it fast, this is going to work. So what is my opinion on the case-wise? This is my old ORICO. This is the Nekteck, the one that I just recently purchased. I showed you before. They look identical. I think they're the same. I think they're probably core process in the very beginning were made by the same company. So I would then in turn say I like that case just as much as I like the other one that I did the review on with the ORICO a couple years back. In that review, while I was still not fully technical, I guess you might say, on that, I was pleasantly surprised on just its speed and capability. We've done the speed tests. They are faster than a decent spinning hard drive like the LaCie, it showed the one LaCie, whatever you want to call it. It is a good drive, but it is not fast compared to what these guys are. And then also on top of that, the Samsung T5, you can see it in comparison to an internal hard drive. The T5 is a comparable set of numbers to these devices. I just like the fact that they're much more compact on the T5. And then of course I did show my T7, at least the testing wise, and that one was consistently on both sides 960-ish or 9 something, 9 plus on both sides. And I'm looking at to make sure I got it the right way. Let me pull the USB cable out. So these are my current drives that I will be using to do a lot of transfer between, cell phone video, GoPro video, whatever. I can pull the video off of tablets and whatever and just pass it back and forth across all the devices. I am very happy with what I have. The speeds I think are negligible, being different. That in that case means that both cases are identical in my mind, and they're going to be perfect for what I have to use them for. So do me a favor, hit me up with a like if you liked it. Even if you disliked it, let me know. I'd love to know if you have any thoughts or comments. Please drop them down below. Let me know what you're thinking out there. And then if you could also do me a favor and hit the subscribe if you haven't done that already. And last but not least, peace.